Welcome to Basket Weaving with WUDTJAMEEN. Today I'm going to teach you how to weave a basket from raffia. The first thing that you're going to need is a tapestry needle. This was a size 13 with a blunt end that we're going to use for our weaving. The second thing is some raffia. This is from the Raffia Connection, eggplant. It's a beautiful colour. And third is a pair of scissors for trimming at the end. And we're ready to go and start weaving. So what we've got here is bundle raffia. This is what we want to call this kind of thicker bit that we're dealing with here. And then we've got another piece of raffia that I'm going to call the weaving raffia. So the first thing that we do is we tie a little loop in the weaving raffia, and we're going to put the bundle raffia through the hole in the loop, leaving about 2 or 3 centimeters on the right side of the loop. Pull the loop tight, like that. And then what we're going to do is the bit that is the end of the loop, the shorter piece of the weaving raffia, just goes in with the rest of the raffia. So the long bit is the bit we're going to be weaving with. So pull that in with the rest of the bundle, and then grab the bit on the right of the loop that you've made and twist that into the bundle as well, so that the loop you've got is just at the end. Then we're going to flip it over so that the long piece of raffia that we're weaving with is at the top of the bundle. All of these wispy bits we can cut off later, so don't worry if there's any wispy bits around. So we're going to make a loop like that just sits at the front of that bundle. And then with the long piece of raffia, we're going to come through the back of the loop like that and pull it really tight. Make sure that you really pull it tight so you lock that in and the raffia isn't loose. We're going to make another loop, go through the back, and pull it tight again. So now what we want to be doing is creating a little circle that's going to be the center of our basket. So we're going to make another loop, pull it through the back like we were doing, but this time we're going to twist the raffia in a little circle. I like to kind of lock it with my pinky finger, and then before we pull the loop, twist the circle, hold it in place, and then pull the loop really tight, and it will hold the circle in place. So again, twisting it in a circle, doing a loop, and then pulling it in place. Again, you can see we're creating a little bit of a circle here. Back through the loop, holding the raffia in a circle, pulling it down before we tighten it, and then tighten it, and it'll lock it in place in a little circle. We're just going to keep doing this until we have a full circle. You can see that once we kind of get the hang of doing this, it's actually quite simple. And this is a time where you would usually be doing this with friends, family, or community. And it's a great opportunity to just sit around and have a chat with the people around you while you're all doing something with your hands. So what we're trying to do here is do enough loops until we've got a full circle, so that the last loop we're making is lined up with the first loop we made right at the start. So maybe 2 or 3 more to go. And we can really pull it in tight there. So we can see that we've only got one left really. And now we're going to start coiling the basket together so that the new loops feed into the old loops and join it together. For this next part, we're going to need a tapestry needle, which has got a large hole for threading the raffia and a blunt end so it's not pointed. And we're going to feed the weaving raffia through the loop, pull off any wispy bits, because we're now going to be putting the weaving raffia through our old loops. So we pull that circle pretty tight, and you can see the first loop that we made, we're going to put the needle through that. And bring it all the way through, and similar to what we were doing before, bring it through the loop and pull it tight. So the basket is starting to come together now, and every loop we make from now on is going to go through an old loop that we've made on the previous inner circle. So through our old loop, out the back, and through the little loop that we've made, and pull it tight. And we're just going to keep doing that again and again. I'll just show you the whole process here so that you've got some time to figure out what you're doing before the next step. Now my weaving raffia here is getting a little bit short, so I've only got maybe 1 or 2 inches left of the weaving raffia. So we're going to make a loop and then pull the needle off the weaving raffia. And I'm going to show you how to replace the weaving raffia so that we can keep going. So we're going to grab a new bit of weaving raffia and open our last loop that we've made just a little bit and thread the new raffia through that little gap there in the loop. Use your tapestry needle if you have to. And the old bit of raffia, what we're going to do is pull that really tight like we do so that it locks in the new piece of weaving raffia, and then that just goes in with the rest of the raffia as well as the short bit of the new piece that we've added. So now we've got a new piece to weave with. And I'll just make a loop like we were doing at the start without threading it through the old one, just to lock that piece in. And so whenever you run out of your weaving raffia, you can just add a new piece in like that. So we're going to thread it through our tapestry needle again so that we can keep threading through our old loops. And then we just keep going. So whenever you run out of raffia, that's how we do it. You'll probably have to do it several times depending on how big of a basket you're making. Make a loop, thread it through the back, pull it tight, and we just keep going and going and going until we've got the size that we want. So here's one I've done earlier that's a little bit bigger. So I've made 3 or 4 rotations. And I'm going to show you what to do when your bundle raffia is getting to the end. And you need to thread some new pieces in so that you can keep weaving your basket. So like we did when we needed a new piece of weaving raffia. We're going to grab some more raffia and we're going to thread it in to our bundle so that we can keep going and making this basket as large as we want it to be. So we've got our loop here and we're going to thread it through the back this time. So these little loops at the back, we're going to pull our last loop, thread the raffia through the back of the loop, kind of about midway, so equal parts raffia on each side of the loop. Pull it tight to lock it in and fold it over. So now you've got extra raffia in your bundle. And then we just pick up our weaving raffia again, do a loop like we've been doing, pull it tight, and that'll lock in the new piece of raffia that we've just put in the back. Keep going again. And I like to thread in the bundle raffia gradually rather than adding a few pieces at once. Otherwise you can end up with inconsistent thickness. It might be really, really thick and then get thin again. So you might do a few more, 3 or 4, and then add in another piece of bundle raffia so that it stays pretty consistently thick throughout the entire basket. So we'll add in a new piece through our last loop. Tighten it up, lock it in, fold it over, and we can see now that we've got some extra bits to keep going, and we're going to keep adding bits in. Pick up our weaving raffia and keep going through the back of the loop, pulling it tight. And now we know how to add more weaving raffia and more bundle raffia. So here's a piece that I've started turning into a basket by bringing the edges up. It's not flat like the piece we were working with earlier, it's actually turning a bit more into a basket. So we do just keep going round and round, but we're just going to be holding it in a slightly different way. So we've got the flat base of the basket ready, and now we're going to start doing the edges. So I'm going to thread my tapestry needle back onto my piece and keep weaving the way we were, so making a loop, but before we pull it tight we want to pull the edges up. So instead of having it flat like that, we're going to be pulling them up and pulling the loop straight up instead of away from us. So again, we've got a loop and we're pulling it straight up, making sure that the piece of raffia that we're now working with, our bundle raffia, is above instead of in front of flat. So it's above the previous line and we're pulling straight up, locking it into place. And that's all there really is to it. So you just keep weaving until you have the basket size that you want. So I've just made a small one so I can show you all on the video. So this is a completed one ready to be tied off at the end. So this is a long bit of the bundle raffia and we don't want it to be that long because we want to finish the basket. So we're just going to cut off the end bit. I like to do it at a bit of an angle so that it tapers off rather than comes to a sudden stop. So taper it, cut it on a bit of an angle, get rid of that. And then you're going to come back and just keep weaving how you've been weaving all along, pulling it nice and tight to lock in the end of the basket. I'm just going to cut this bit off so it's easier to thread. So threading the tapestry needle and just keep weaving the way we've been doing through our last loop, through the loop, pulling it nice and tight. just going to keep doing this until we reach the end of our bundle raffia. I'm really making sure we're doing them nice and tight to lock that in. So I've reached the end of my bundle raffia, so tie one last knot, and I'm going to pull it across because that's where I'm about to put my weaving raffia. So to lock the basket in, we're going to thread it through the back of our loops. Pull it through. Pull it nice and tight to really lock in the basket, and do it again. You can, if you've got a really long piece of weaving raffia still, you can kind of twist it around a couple of times or just do a little bit. The more you thread it through, the more secure it's going to be, but it's pretty good. So chop it off. Chop off the other bit. And then we can just go around and get all of the little wispy bits. So you can see I've got some little wispy bits. That's the finished little basket. But there's some little wispy bits that happened as I was making it. So I'm just going to chop them off to really neaten up the basket. So now what we've got is a finished basket, a little one. Oh, a couple more little wispy bits. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Enjoy making some wild baskets of your own.